Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 92. I am back. I wasn't here last week. So you had the pleasure of Mr. Peter Lant and Mr. Paul Bassett on their own. And I've not even listened to that episode yet as we record this one. I'm looking forward to listening to that along with everybody else. This is going to fry the timeline when it comes out tomorrow. Which is
You'll
2
give
weeks
away
after,
the secrets. They're not
is
live.
2 weeks after recording this one. But yeah, okay, so that's going to be great. First of all, we do have a fantastic guest who I've just spent the weekend with, who I will introduce in a minute.
Not in that way.
Not in that way. I spent the weekend with about 40 people, so I'll explain that in a bit. So first of all, I'll introduce the usual hosts. Mr. Peter Lant in Bath. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Yes. So yeah. Congratulations to everyone who passed their SFG2 this weekend, or all those who didn't and have 6 months to get into it, because there was a few people who did that who'd be all right. But yeah, my online client Jed, who you knew already, James, didn't you? But he was there and he managed to pass with flying colours. I think he nailed it. So so that's all good. So that made a good weekend for me, even though I wasn't even there. So
yeah, no, Jed was great. He was he's such a good laugh, isn't he? It was great fun.
Well, I've been talking about this, about people who are being coached, and then when they have problems, they don't ask questions, they just kind of disappear and kind of ghost the trainer. Whereas Jed's had a few setbacks and stuff over the last few months, and he had COVID and all that. But he's just showed up all the time, and it's paid off massively. He's got way stronger. So it's just been brilliant. It's just been brilliant to like watching his videos, because he's quite funny as well.
Yeah, he is indeed. and Mr. Paul Bassett, how are you doing?
I'm all right. That's a good point, actually, Peter, because so many people just, when things aren't quite going to plan, they just kind of go quiet, don't they? And you can definitely tell the ones who are going to succeed, because they're the ones that they're just on your back, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
and
good.
sometimes that you can think like, God, that's a bit annoying, but it's even more annoying when they disappear.
Because
exactly. You can't do it. You don't know what to do. You
don't know what to do you? Yeah. No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I've not trained this week. I have a recurrent bicep issue that's just driving me insane at the moment. But I've had a week off, and it seems to. I think probably that's what I needed, was a week off. So sometimes you need to take a week off.
Sometimes you do. Yeah. Sometimes you do. No, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm one of the people who's got to redo my press within 6 months. I got a 32. I would have needed to press a 36. I weighed in 200 grams too heavy. And I was literally butt naked with Quintin. I think most of you know Q. I literally was naked, like weighing in these scales, and I was 200 grams over. So the 36 would have been a push, but pushing the 40 was definitely going to be a no-go. So I've got a bit of time to do that, which
I think how you could lose 200 grams in like 5 minutes. I mean, there's the obvious way, but if you don't need to go, then you're screwed.
Yeah, no.
You can stick a finger down your throat.
No.
Not recommended.
No. So that was great. But yeah, so I've got that time to do that past everything else. So just can focus on that now, which is great. Anyway, all this talk of the Strongfirst SFG2, our guest today is Jemma Wesson, who is the owner of the unit gym in Teeside, which actually they hosted the SFG this past weekend. I was up there for the first time. I was in, I think officially it's called North Yorkshire, isn't it, Jemma?
Yes.
I was in North Yorkshire. It may have even been my first time in Yorkshire in my life. And it was absolutely
beautiful. You get a nosebleed.
Yeah.
Passport.
And it was absolutely beautiful up there. It was gorgeous. It was a lovely place. And you know what it's like? You get in a car, and we drove for like 5 hours, and then we got out of the car and everyone was speaking differently. And it was like, it felt like we were in a different you know, we'd somehow gone into a different world because we'd just been in our little car for 5 hours, and then we were in a totally different part of the country. But it was absolutely fantastic. So Jemma is, like I say, she's the owner of the Unit Gym in Teeside. She is a newly certified Strongfirst Elite, which we'll maybe talk a little bit about that today with Jemma as well, and she can talk to us about what that entailed and how she's done that. But yeah, it's just going to be really nice to have a good conversation with a very a strong lady, a business owner, someone who really kind of, you know, talks the talk and walks the walk. Yeah, this is just going to be a really nice chat. So Jemma, nice to welcome you to the Health Oddity podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a regular listener, so it's a bit like, ooh.
No, it's really, really nice to have you on. And do you want to maybe start by, like I say, I've met you quite a few times, but I don't think I've ever really, I don't know your origin story really, or your background, and you know how you got to be where you are today. But do you want to kind of just tell us and the listeners a little bit about yourself and your progression and your journey to where you are now, and you know how you became the owner of such a fantastic facility, and you know your training background and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well,
Cool.
I've always been into fitness. I was a footballer, so obviously I'm quite tomboy and playing football with the lads out the front, and so I've always been into sport. It was the only thing I was good at school. Got me out of detention quite a few times because obviously, you know, if we had to play netball or whatever, the PE teacher wanted to get me out of detention, so we would, so I'd be able to play and win a few games. And then basically what happened was how I got into the gym situation was my dream was to play football in America, get a scholarship, you know, when you're young. And I tore my cruciate ligament. So 14-year-old, 15, yeah, it was like boom, that dream was over. And then my mate got me a job as a little YT back in the day in the local gym. And then it just sort of progressed from there. Met my husband, who I'm still with now, 18 years on. So never mixed business with pleasure, so they say. And yeah, and then how I got into the unit, obviously from working in the gym, from there, obviously doing all my different certifications, dabbled in a little bit of bodybuilding, a little bit of CrossFit, you know. And then I had a unit with my friend. He went, I think he just got sick of the fitness industry and got a real job, so he said. So then I took that unit over. And at the time I trained a client, and he was into business and what have you, and investing in buildings. And he was saying, obviously the unit I had, it was awful. There was no toilets, there was nothing, you know. We had some smelly wrestlers, and I was thinking, God, I can't be here forever. I went on holiday, got drunk on tequila, came back and bought this building, which was an absolute yeah. So never go to Mexico and get drunk on tequila. And I don't know whether you've seen the pictures, James. Did you see them in reception? It was basically an old industrial unit, and you can sometimes still smell the oil when you're coming on a hot day. And it was absolute wreck. I don't know what we were thinking at the time, but you know, I was probably still hungover from Mexico, and we just went for it, and then we did it, and it was 6 years ago. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you actually bought that unit that you've got there. You know,
yeah.
You don't rent it. Yeah, that's great. I mean, to be able to find somewhere that you can buy is very, very, well, it's really difficult down here anyway, down sort of south. I don't know if it's a bit more available where you are, but you've got such a great space there, and the space out the back, and the turf outside, and the fact that you've got car parking spaces and things. It's it's a fantastic setup you got, isn't it?
Thank you. I mean, well, I suppose when you're in here day in, day out, and everyone tells you that, I think to hear it from a fellow gym owner like yourself, it's like, thank you. It's like, you know, it's, you know, you don't see it yourself sometimes, because some days you hear day in, day out, and it's like, well, you know, I always relate business to having children. I don't have children, but I imagine it, some days you'll love them to bits, and then some days you're like,
Days you just want to walk out and never come back.
So to strip things back a bit, Gemma, when you started working in like a local leisure centre or something when you were like in your teens, is that kind of right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was 15 and it was a local, just a privately run gym. The guy's still got his gyms. I only visited him a couple of weeks ago, popped up and seen him, great guy. And then, well, what I did do is I tore my cruciate again. And I used to do a bit of leisure centre, what's the word? Lifeguard, that's the So I was a lifeguard, but once you've done your cruciate, you can't do the breaststroke. So then I was out of work and I got a temporary job, and you'll laugh at this, as a filing clerk in the doctor's surgery.
Okay.
So, yeah, temporary. And my dad said to me, Are you sure you really want this? And I was like, oh, I'll just chase the money at the time I was on. It was probably about 21. And then I was there for 8 years and absolutely hated it. I just got married and we decided we didn't want children. And at the time, an old schoolmate of mine actually passed away. And I just thought, you know what, he's me in a job I hated, coming home, whinging at my husband every night. I think he was sick of me whinging at him. And he just said, look, he said, if you don't enjoy it, just leave. So I just walked in the net. He went, but whatever you do, make sure it works. And I did a few, my friends PTing on the side, and I would do just daft little boot camps in the local park for just friends. So I just walked in and just said, I'm leaving. I just handed my notice in and walked down. So yeah. And then what I did from there was I went and did a sports massage course and then just got my certificates. Yeah. So I just walked in, handed my notice in and walked out. Best decision I ever made.
So when you first started sort of seriously training in the gym, I suppose, or more seriously training in the gym, was the first thing that you kind of got into, was it more the kind of the bodybuilding sort of style of training and things like that? That was your kind of introduction into kind of strength training, if you like, through the bodybuilding kind of route, was it?
The gym when I first left school, it was a bodybuilding gym. So it was more for aesthetics. I did used to do, the sports side of it with football, so sprinting. So I liked that. I liked the sports side of it, but I also liked, obviously we all want to look good, don't we? So I like the aesthetic side. And I used to train with my husband, who was really big into bodybuilding at the time. We used to go around to the shows and watch them all. And I was going to compete and I trained for it. And then I did a photo shoot. So years ago now, I did a photo shoot and I didn't enjoy getting my photo took, and I didn't enjoy standing there with, like a bikini on. And I thought, if I can't do this in a photo shoot, there's no way I can get on stage. And you're weighing your food, you're weighing your chicken, your rice, and it's like, I thought, that this isn't fun. I like my chocolate, I like my wine. So then what I went into, I just used to train, and then my friend got me to go to CrossFit. So I did a little bit of CrossFit, enjoyed that, but a few niggles, never had injuries before, a couple of niggles and stuff. And then I went on, I think it was Claire's barbell foundation workshop. And then she totally changed my setup of my deadlift. And I was like, all the things I've learned is just totally wrong. So that then got me into Strongfirst because they did the barbell course. And I can remember it was Fabio that did it. It was the SFL and it was at Lily Shaw. And he told us to do a get up for the warm up, and I couldn't do a get up. I didn't know how to do a get up because obviously I wasn't really into kettlebells. I was all barbells. And I was like, I can't do a get up. And then he obviously noticed, because he noticed that he sees everything, doesn't he? And he pulled me to one side and he went, don't worry, I never used to be able to do a get up neither, like that. And I thought, I need to learn the get up. So yeah. So then
it was funny because me and James were at that, weren't we? We were at that certification. I remember you were all quads.
Yeah.
Everything was quad. You were so quad dominant. Like your squat was amazing. You could do that, but then everything else wasn't a struggle. But like that was your thing, wasn't it? And then that was like it made everything else slightly harder. I seem to remember that.
I had no rotation. I had no thoracic extension. I was training functional. Are you there?
Yep.
But I was training functional. I had no functional whatsoever. So it just made me change my whole training, I suppose. Yeah, and then I've never really looked back, I suppose, on that. Yeah.
And when you first opened, so you said 6 years ago you opened the current, or you moved into the current kind of setup that you've got for the unit.
Yeah, 6 years ago. Yeah, it's actually, we signed for it 6 years ago on Friday, on the 20th of May.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Yeah.
So when you first opened, that was before kind of Strongfirst and kettlebells and stuff like that. So when you first opened the unit, was it more of a CrossFit type setup? Was it more of a bodybuilding setup? Was it more of a powerlifting, or just a general strength setup?
Just a bit of everything. I basically opened a gym with everything that I like to train with. So, so it had obviously your leg press and everything, because that's what upper body, lower body. At the time, I did train quite a few boxers, so I've trained a lot of sports in the background, sports like netballers and footballers and boxers. So there was the sport element to it, and it was just a case of, I like to do that day. I like to do it. So I didn't really have a business plan. I just sort of seen the opportunity, took it, and then just built on it from then, really. So yeah, a bit of CrossFit, and then just a bit of everything, really, just whatever went. The classes were more women only, getting women into lifting weights. That's what I think. With a woman lifting weights, you attract your vibe, attracts your tribe, so you sort of attract more women. But then I did used to train a lot of boxers, so sports. I've got my degrees in sports science, so yeah.
I think when I was there at the weekend, I noticed, like you say, there were kind of regular gym members kind of training. Certainly I noticed it more on the Friday, and it was really lovely because I popped my head round to the kind of bit that goes round like an L shape, and then I could see I think actually most of the people who I saw training, I think it was like 90% women that I saw. I might have seen one or two men, but I think most of the people training there were women. And then you had obviously some of your members who took part in the press workshop on the Friday, which was great to see. And they were kind of, women as well doing it. So it was a really, really lovely to see. And they kind of looked as well, similar to what I kind of have, like normal women, they're just, they're just like,
I attract my clientele would be more the older spectrum. So late 30s, early 40s, 50s, 60s. I've got 62-year-olds who've only been lifting for say 2 years. So I do attract, your vibe attracts your tribe, really, isn't it? I'm not gonna, so I get the ones who want to learn, want to be educated. So we don't do bit like your place, actually, James. We've said that before, haven't we? They're quite similar, where I don't get the, we don't beast them, we don't do, obviously we do a couple of daft burpees, but my classes are more focused on the strength side. And I think as women are getting it now, that actually you're not going to get big and bulky by lifting weights, and it's not all about cardio, and it's not all about blowing out your backside. We've actually got like a heart rate monitor in the gym, and I got that purposely because to prove that you don't need to be in the red zone all the time. It's, I think everyone's now these days, we've got such a stressful life, and some people train to get rid of that stress, but then they're putting the body into more stress, aren't they? So we're trying to get that message across, and my members are getting it. But yeah, it is nice to see that, that is 90%. It is female members, and I do obviously have male members, but it's nice to see them to walk in, and I've got like your 55-year-old mother doing a pull-up, and I'm like, yeah, go on, it's quite, I don't know, it makes your job satisfactory, isn't it, really?
And I think let's go back. I wouldn't mind going back to, because it's a question I find a lot, because I run a program called the Amazing 12, which is barbells, it's strength training, it's a physique program. And by physique, we're not thinking purely weight loss. There is a weight loss component. Yeah. But one of the concerns a lot of people have, and mainly women, well, it's 100% women, is that that there's a heavy emphasis on some of the kind of upper body exercises, like the bench press, for example, and there's less emphasis on legs. Now, when I talk to my clients about that, I'm like, you know, we talk about just the sheer kind of the thing is about a squat is that you can use a lot of weight, and when you're using a lot of weight, you can stimulate a lot of change from that. So you don't really want to be doing legs every day because you could quite easily burn out. But often some of them start seeing the muscle tone and they have an innate kind of reaction to it. Although they've come to me to create muscle tone, it's a very different feeling that maybe they've experienced in the past. So when you're starting to work with women who've never done the kind of strength training you do, how are you talking them through that change that's going to be happening to their body?
Well, I always explain, one, if you've got more muscle, you can eat, you can burn more calories at rest. So there's a bonus. And I go down the health. So basically, you know, I always think lifting weights is going to make our bones stronger, our ligaments stronger. You know, when I'm 80 odd year old, I want to be able to get off the toilet and wipe my own backside. So I try and go down that route. You know, it's if you feel stronger, it's less injury, you're going to live longer, train for longevity. I've had a few going, oh, my shoulders are getting bigger, and I'm like, well, do you want nice muscular shoulders or do you want just big shoulders? So it's like, I've not really, mine sort of get it. I've not really had any that have left because they're muscly or anything like that. I think because the way I look, maybe I don't know. I'll have to ask them. That's a good question. I'll have to ask.
Yeah,
them.
I think because maybe. I mean, I've got a great trainer who's a woman, Marta. She's awesome. She does the programs, and she's really strong. I mean, really strong. I mean, I always tell them if you're getting a bit too bulky, I mean, firstly, you're probably one in a million who's got the genetics. And secondly, I want to know what you're doing that I'm not, because because I'm struggling to get bulky myself. You know,
it's one of those things. It's like learning to cook and then accidentally becoming a Michelin star chef, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh dear, look what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just going to say as well, Jemma, just before Paul said that, it was kind of a similar point, really, but that I'd actually forgotten how and don't take. I'd forgotten how small you were. You know, like when I saw you at the weekend, because I've got pictures of you actually on we've got these digital frames that cycle through pictures at the gym. I saw you've got like a big screen up at yours as well. Yeah. And I've got pictures that come round of and I think it's probably of that first SFL where you were there, and there's you, Claire, and Fabio. And maybe is it Angelica? I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And you're all doing like bicep poses, you know. Yeah. And you all got these really impressive biceps. And you look in the photo, you look quite big. And then when I saw you at the weekend, I was like, oh, you're really petite, aren't you? You're really. I don't know how tall you are. 5 foot or something.
I think at the SFL I was probably about 65, 63 kilograms, because obviously I was doing maybe a lot more CrossFit style training then. So to be honest, I was just probably inflamed, inflamed from overtraining, wrong type of training. I had a lot of muscle, but it was unfunctional. I had a big glutes, but they didn't work. I mean, you know, that I realised that with the kettlebell swing. That's one thing Claire said, you know, you've got a good ass, but it doesn't work. And it's right. And I say that, so I'd rather have functional. So I think I've just stripped down a lot on my muscle that wasn't needed, because it was more for aesthetics. So I'm a lot lighter now, and it's just by changing the way I train. I think because I've got little limbs, it looks like I've got a lot of muscle because I've got short arms.
But you're also quite. How tall are you? 5'1"?
About 5'3" if I stand tall.
Okay. So it was almost like farmers,
after farmers what. 5'5".
Because you know, people always say, don't they, that like when you see people on like in movie stars or whatever, and then if you actually meet them in person, they're always a lot smaller than you think because you see them on screen. Yeah. You know, but so what Paul was saying, you know, you lift a lot of weights and you're very, very strong, and you train harder probably than 95% of the women who you're going to meet or going to train, but you're very petite and very, very toned with it. And you're not kind of, so I think that is like a legitimate fear, or it's not, maybe an illegitimate fear, whatever the term would be, about women getting bigger and stuff with weights. But like you said, and like Paul said, the majority of the time, if you train well and you train hard, you'll actually end up probably looking smaller than you did, although you may have some definition and you may have some muscle lines and that sort of thing.
Yeah, here's the thing, coming at it from the other way. So, there might be people listening to this who are into training and into aesthetics, which, is fine. But Jemma, Paul just asked the question of how does Jemma talk to her clients about, look, you will put some size on, but you're not going to get massive, right? You're probably going to be a little bit bigger than you are now. So when people say like, oh, my shoulders are getting bigger, are their shoulders getting bigger because they were small? You know what I mean?
Weights are getting smaller.
Yeah, but you had to come at this from the other way. So you've just said, Claire said, you got a nice arse, but it doesn't work properly and all of that sort of stuff. So, how did you feel about that? Thinking, I've put all this muscle on, and that's what I wanted, and then it turns out I've got to not lose it, but I've got to kind of redistribute it. So it's a similar thing, but coming out from the other way, right? I've got to get smaller.
I think it's just gone down. It's just conversation on my ass here. I think it's just gone down because it's excess muscle. Obviously just inflammation and what have you. But I'd rather be more functional. I'd rather have less injuries, and I'd rather it work, like a muscle actually work and do its job. I had a lot of niggles, and I couldn't sit. I'd be in the car for 20 minutes, and I'd get out like an old woman. And I'm like, what now? I'm like 6 years. I'm closer to 40 than I'd want to be, but I feel stronger and fitter. And I've got, touch wood, no niggles than when I had when I was like 30. And I think if you train for longevity, you're going to train a lot longer. And another point, going back to it, because a lot of my clients were, the perimenopausal, or they're going through the menopause, there's so much scientific research on women lifting weights for the menopause. I just throw that at them. I tend to give them loads of like links as well, and like read that, and eventually the penny will drop.
I mean, I was watching an interesting video a few weeks ago from a guy called Mike Israetel. It's kind of a Renaissance something or other, his channel. He's talking about the expectations someone could have if they were taking steroids in terms of the muscle, the lean mass that they would put on. And, when they're taking through different cycles and different levels of focus or different volumes of drug taking, basically, what would be your expectations? You get to the end when he's talking about massive amounts of pharmaceuticals, and obviously genetically some people are going to put on a lot of mass, but it's actually not as much as you think. So if you're, if he's talking about like, if you're taking like oral steroids, you might put on like 10 to 15 pounds of muscle tops as a man who's genetically very gifted. So it shows you how difficult it is to get bulky. And probably if you're getting bulky, you might be just eating too much, because you can put on.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
But 10 pounds of fat is easy.
They say, well, it's your training, but it's like, well, what you're eating, what you're eating on a weekend.
Yeah.
Because I found that probably when women actually do strength training well, that they actually, because I suppose maybe, I'd probably say the majority of women who come through to see us to begin with may be a little bit overweight or carrying more weight than they'd like, a little bit overweight. But so when they actually start strength training, they tend to actually get smaller rather than anything. But like you say, when you actually start stripping fat off and you start to see lines of muscle a little bit, it can have that the visual impact of you actually look bigger. But it's like bodybuilders, isn't it, on stage and things. When they're on stage, they're the smallest they'll be for the whole year, but they look the biggest because they're so cut,
but they're also feeling at their worst as well.
Exactly.
Probably.
And at their weakest.
They come off and faint and
I was just going to say as well, I went to just for the guys, we had Owen from My Vital Metrics on before, and I went for a catch up with him and just talking about the muscle thing. I did a full DEXA scan with him 6 months ago, and then went back for another DEXA. And I'd put on 1 kilo of muscle in 6 months, you know, and that was through training hard and eating lots of protein. And at 44 years old, I think that that's kind of, if I can maintain muscle or put on 1 kilo every 6 months, I mean, that's 2.2 pounds. So that's, it just shows
That's a lot. That's a lot, because it doesn't.
That's a lot, yeah.
It doesn't sound like much.
No, but that's what I mean. It
But it
sounds
is.
like, oh, bloody
It's a
one.
huge amount.
But you think that usually you should be in this kind of sarcopenia state or whatever, where in your 40s it should be. So if you can halt that and bring it back up, that's what I'm aiming to do now. But it's not. So what, the reason I say that is that the view of suddenly, you know, putting on, you know, half a stone or a stone of muscle, you know, in reality, it's probably not muscle that people are putting on if they're getting bigger.
I mean, you're fasting as well.
What muscle mass have you got? What muscle mass have you got? Do you know, roughly, in kilos?
Not off the top of my head, no. He did the lean mass index, you know, the like the BMI, but only using the lean tissue. And then there's a level that he wants you to be at, and I'm over that. You know, and bone density does all. So we're trying to encourage more women.
Let's just say, sarcopenia, 5%. You lose 5% over 10 years or something like that, isn't it? And then it accelerates as you get older. So at your age, you should be losing 5%. You should be losing 5% over 10 years. Yeah. So over a year, that would be 1/4 of a kilo. So 250 grams or whatever. Right? So you should be losing technically 250 grams every year. Say if you had like 50 kilos of muscle, which it probably isn't, but just based on that. But you've actually put on 4 times that. So you've actually gone 5 times the other way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the swing. Yeah.
So when people say, oh, it's because I'm old and all of this, because they've got the achy and sore. So Jemma goes with this as well. She's like achy and sore and all this. It's, you know, it's because I'm getting older. I'm getting towards 40, or I'm getting to this age, or I'm 44 or whatever. It's not true. it's
and it'll be more functional as well, more functional muscle that you're putting on. It's not, you know, you don't walk around with your lats spread. You can actually you can rotate and extend and
It wasn't just your liver, was it, from all that Guinness?
Guinness and coffee. But no, I think that's a really interesting point to get across, though, to anyone listening. Is you know, you can try and blame things on age. And we do decline as we get older, and we've spoke about this before, and Dan John spoke about this, I think, specifically, is we're going to decline, but what you can do is you can slow that down. That's the aim.
I've got a lot of my members are 56, 58, and they move better than I've seen 28-year-olds, you know, and I think you age when you stop, if that makes sense. And I said it to one of my members. I was like, yeah, but you don't look, you don't walk, you don't, you know, look like a 56-year-old. And then she works in a hospital. It wasn't until she was taking some details and she looked at the person and she come into the instrument. I know what you mean when you say, I don't, you know, I'm not like a 56-year-old because I keep moving. And, you know, and I do think when I look at people, you know, you could look at people who went to school with and you think, God, you know, I think we've only got one life, and you know, we're here for a good time, not a long time. But if we can make that time longer and healthier, and you know,
I find it really interesting because we don't sort of, well, it is judging, but we try not to judge people and stuff like that. But like when we're doing stuff, like we're outside in a park when we're doing stuff, and there'll be people out for a run and stuff like that, and you know, you see different people walking past, running past, and all that, and you can see weaknesses in hips and ankles and knees and different running gaits and all of this sort of stuff, and you can see injuries happening as people are going, how people carry a bag, things like that. And I use those as an example with the guys, and I'll say, like, look, you can see what's happening there. So if we can try and stop you doing things like that, then you know it's going to be beneficial.
I do use, and I don't know whether you'd seen in the other room, in the free weight room, I have strength has a greater purpose, because I always think if you're strong. So, you know, I do like to do some jump squats or whatever, but if I've got a strong squat and I'm going to do some jump squats and my technique might go, because, you know, no one's technique is perfect all the time, at least my body's strong to take that when it does. Does that make sense? So I just try and get that message across if I can. And
I got a good quote from Kirsten Tullock, a little tank, who it's not a quote, it's actually something I saw on her Instagram. She posted it. It was from another lady who I wasn't sure. It said, your current body is the only body that can take you to your new body. So be kind to it.
Exactly, yeah. And I always think there's a lot of people out there would love to be able to get up and go to the gym or do whatever. So, I just try and get that message across to them.
So
we always have.
In terms of your training, Jemma, yourself at the moment, you like we say, you've just at the past weekend kind of reached Strongfirst Elite kind of instructor status. So just for the listeners, do you just want to quickly kind of tell people what that actually means? Because most people listening won't probably know.
Yeah, so your Strongfirst Elite is when you've gone through all their certifications, and then on your last certification, so mine was the SFG 2, once you've passed that and you've got that certificate, you've passed the standards for that, you then get tested for each of your standards from say your body weight and your barbell. So your barbell, you've got to do 5 presses at half your body weight, and your deadlift is your strength. So I think is it your body weight? And for women, we do have it a bit easier than the boys. And then your body weight is just your 1-arm push-up. I thought it was like a pistol and a pull-up, but it's just a 1-arm push-up. And the boys you've got to do a 1-arm, 1 leg, haven't you? So then once you pass that, then you get your elite, and it's just basically to prove that you've kept your skills up.
That's what I really. Yeah, sorry, Pete.
What the thing about this though is because obviously there's body weight, there's kettlebell stuff, and there's barbell stuff, and there's always one of those which is hard. Like you can find a lot of the other stuff easy. Yeah. So for me, the kettlebell stuff wasn't like this. The half body weight press wasn't always easy. Now I can do it no problem because I've been training with Paul. The body weight stuff, it turned out I was a natural at.
Yeah, you the short limbs like me, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm little. I'm little and I weigh nothing. So but the barbell stuff, I find really hard. I really do. Like a double body weight deadlift for me is a lot. Yeah. So what was your?
Mine is the overhead press. My pressing is always my nemesis. So overhead press is that's the one I've got to really work at to keep. Deadlift. I've always deadlifted, and I've got short limbs, so pistols, and they just come natural, really, I suppose.
Is the overhead press? Is that because so in your previous training before you got into all of this, did you do much of that, or was it more squatting and deadlifting and
squatting and deadlifting? Yeah.
So there's a reason for that. Then it can be explained, then, can't it? Because you haven't put the time into the overhead press.
So I do find if I get any new clients and they've done, that the body pump, when they've done body pump.
Oh yeah.
In the past, they're brilliant at overhead press. Like I've got 3 girls who are like strong as on overhead press, and they've come from a body pump background, and I think with body pump there's a lot of, I'm flat bench. I don't really have to work at my bench, and that's probably what Paul said it's come from. I've always done, say, deadlifts, squats, and benching in the gyms, and didn't do much overhead work. So yeah.
No, it's fantastic. Well done. I mean, that was that, and that's something that I can't remember who it was. I think it was David, actually. David Svigo, is it? I can't remember. I can't pronounce it. But David, who was assisting at the week, Svigo, who's assisting at the weekend as well, said, and Stephen Malloy as well, who are both elites, aren't they? And
they got elite at your gym, didn't they?
But they sort of said to me this past weekend that why they like it so much, the Strongfirst stuff, is that because you have to keep yourself up to a standard, and you have to, probably once a year you're going to go to an event or go to a cert, and you're going to need to pass the stuff that you need to do there, and you don't just pass it once and then let it all lapse, so you have to kind of maintain that standard.
I think that's what I liked about Strongfirst, because I suppose sometimes in the industry you do get a bit of that imposter syndrome where it's and you do compare yourself, or people might have said something in the past, and it's a case of a lot of other certs, you turn up, you write your name on it, you know, I've been on them, you write your name on it, and you get your certificate, where you do have to prove you can do it as well, and you've got to keep your skills up, which I do, and it stopped me from being lazy, if I'm honest.
Yeah, especially now we've got like we obviously had Lauren, and huge well done to Lauren Emery and Alex Nicole Bennett,
who bench pressed that 28, didn't she? Straight away it was like boom.
Yeah, so huge well done.
She was wearing rainbow tights.
Yeah. So yeah, huge well done to them, and then because we've also got Emma came and did the SFG one, and this October I'm bringing Matt Sales to do the SFG one. So the more people who I bring to do the certs, then it kind of obviously puts a good pressure on me as well to maintain myself, you know, because you've got students who are going, so you have to do the stuff yourself. I was just going to ask as well, Jemma, we did a podcast a couple of weeks back where it was just the three of us talking about kind of nutrition really, and how we do things, and how we eat, our eating habits and all that sort of stuff. And I actually had quite a lot of feedback on that episode where people said, oh, it's really interesting just to hear a kind of, you know, a normal person just telling us what they do. So I was just going to ask you about your nutrition and things. Are you very mindful of it? Are you very relaxed with it? Are you very structured?
I'm more relaxed. I'm more relaxed now. I don't really follow a diet. I don't really do diets because I think it has got a bit of a negative effect for women sometimes with their mindset. For me, you know, going back when I was really into the aesthetics and the bodybuilding days, like I can remember going to my niece's 5-year-old party and taking boiled chicken, rice, and you know, I wouldn't have cake and stuff. And I don't know how I just sort of flipped it around one day, and I thought, God, I'm not, you know, you're here for like you're here for a good time, not a long time, and you don't want to lay on your deathbed and be like, oh, I wish I ate more salad.
So were you one of the people who kind of you'd carry Tupperware everywhere you went? Stuff in?
Like a 6-pack bag. My husband was very much into it at the time as well. I mean, we're not now, and now I eat what I want. I have no hung up. If I have a bar of chocolate, I mean, I can eat. Like I can eat more than my husband, and I don't feel like I can eat, and I will eat. And then it's like, oh, okay, you need to rein it in a bit now. But I don't really have, if I want porridge for breakfast, I'll have porridge. You know, I don't really have I do fats and proteins, or, you know, I just do whatever. I'm quite lucky at the minute. At my age, I think I can get away with it. Obviously, if I drink a lot, then so then I'm just a bit like, oh, do you know what? It's because my husband works away. So when he's away, because he's a good chef. So when he's away, I just live off basic stuff, because probably, you know, I'll just have an omelette or chicken and whatever, you know, I'm always rushing. And then when he's home, he's like, you know, it's like I've been master chef or whatever. And then we're going out for meals and stuff. And when he's away, so I probably like lower my calories when he's away. And then when he comes, I'm like that. So maybe my way is not the right way, but it works for me.
But what's interesting there is Jemma, you sort of said, oh, you know, just when I'm on my own, I just, you know, do something simple like omelettes and chicken and whatever.
Yeah, so I do know I need to I get my protein in with every meal. So I get my protein with every meal. And then, I mean, I love a bagel with peanut butter. So I'd have that before I trained. I eat more carbs later on in the day. I must admit, I'll eat more carbs later on in the day, but I don't have a set diet at the minute because I've got no goals really. I mean, if I was going on holiday, or I would rein it in. I just knock the sugar off. I just don't eat sugar. That's what does it for me. Sugar and alcohol really. You just
said something really interesting there. Number one, I haven't got any kids. You haven't got any kids. These two have got kids. I've been to some birthday parties of my friends' kids. You don't want to be eating anything there. You don't want to be eating anything. You've seen the kids coughing and sneezing and God knows what. You just no. So you weren't missing out on anything there.
It just resonates with me. I'm like, what a saddo. Like, I sat at
well, no, you probably did yourself a favour. And so what was really interesting is you've just said you've got no goals. And
No, not at the minute.
we've spoke about that a lot on this podcast about like, do you need goals? Do people need to be like, you know, a goal of lifting this much or losing this much weight or whatever? Because they've all got connotations with them, right? So how do you deal with that with new clients when they come in? Do you set goals with them, or do you?
So I use what we call the traffic light system. Ooh. So I'm probably in amber at the minute. So I'm just hovering. If I want a chocolate bar, I'll have a chocolate bar. If I want, you know, and then say if I was going to a wedding or on holiday, I'm going to go into the green zone. So that's when I'm going to be good. I'm going to just knock the chocolate off the head. I'm going to increase my water. I'm going to make sure I get my sleep. I'm going to, you know, stay in the green zone. I can stay in the green zone for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And then I go on holiday. I probably dip into the red zone on holiday. I come back from my holiday. I've had a holiday. I've had a good time. I go back into the amber zone. So we never want to go. I always go, you never want to go from red, green, red, green, red, green, which is a lot of like yo-yo dieting.
Yeah.
I try to use that and it seems to work. And I'm like, you didn't get where you were overnight. So you're not going to get your results overnight. I sort of try and use that. It works for most of them.
So do you find like when you're at amber, there's a scale there as well? So you might like tip over into the red and then you're like, hang on, and then you can just dial it back down a little bit and be a little bit more careful. And
I just like I'll have like a weekend of, you know, like this weekend, you know, I'm going to enjoy myself and I just think if you're going from red to green, you're basically going good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, and you've just got to find that happy medium. And then anyone can be good for 6 weeks, and then you go on holiday, you have a good time, you come back and you go, right, I'm just, you know, I'm going to rein it in a little bit now.
It's, I suppose, if you're going good, bad, every time you're trying to be good, it's like a penance, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where if you're paying for being bad, whereas actually, if you can keep amber, you're like, well, I'll just be good, and it's not that hard to do then, because it's not that much further away from where you were.
Exactly. It's same as training, isn't it? Where people, I think you know, they're really good at the training, then they stop training, and you just like, just find something that works for you. Don't be training too much. If you can only get to the gym 2 days a week, you go 2 days a week. You know, where a lot of people straight in January, right, I'm going to hammer the gym, I'm going to do 5 sessions a week. Then they get sick because they're not really, you know, they don't love coming anyway. So I'm like, do what you can do what's maintainable. If some weeks you can get an extra session in, great. If not, go for a walk. Or it's just finding that. I think, I don't know, we live in a world where we're all or nothing. You've just got to find that steady line.
We've spoken about that before as well. And like the way I look at it now is do what you can recover from.
Yeah.
Not in training, just in everything. Just do what you can recover from. Because if something tires you out, work, family, training, like diet, whatever, you're doing it wrong.
It goes back to that heart rate, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, Peter, which is what I say to my clients is, you know, why are you eating that? Sometimes it's not about the food they're eating, it's the reason why. So it's like the mindset. So it's like, you know, if you're only getting 3 hours sleep, you're going to crave that. If you know, so it's like, let's sort your sleep out. Let's sort, you know, get your basics right. And then it just sort of falls into place, doesn't it? But yeah, I don't really do diets, if that makes sense. Just because it is a bit of a minefield, and it's just basically you've got to get to the reason why. That, you know, if you have a bottle of wine on a night on a, I don't know, Tuesday nights because you've had the kids all day and you're probably stressed because the kids have drove you to the bottle of wine. So it's like, just get rid of your kids. They're the root of your drinking. It's your children.
I really like the traffic lights, and it kind of is similar to, I think, something that Paul mentioned. It might have been Paul, it might have been Pete a few weeks ago, where we said, rather than having like an off and on switch, which is the same, I suppose, as going from green to red, you have more of a volume dial, you know, so sometimes you dial it down a bit, sometimes you dial it up a bit, you know, depending upon situations and what you've got coming up. So it's kind of just another analogy that kind of might speak to people, you know, having the green, amber, red, or the, you know, the off and on, but having the volume dial or the dimmer switch, instead of just a straightforward off and on.
Well, you
But
had
no, I
the,
really like that.
the lever system as well, didn't you? You were talking about the
Yeah,
other
we
week.
talked about that. I mean, there's all different, whatever works for people. But
A lot of it is common sense as well. I mean, really. I mean, I know if I'm going to eat a chocolate bar for like 3 nights in a row, you know, by the 4th night, I'm going to be a bit, you know, agitated or whatever in the sugar rush, or, you know, it's like, it's just common sense. We just like, people in the industry just like to put a bit of a spin on it and make it sound hard.
This is the thing. It is common sense, and it's awareness. And people sleepwalk into doing that, and they know that they're doing it, but they just ignore it, don't they?
Yeah,
and like, if you just make yourself aware of it and own up, and which is harder to do than just do it than just saying like, oh, I'm doing that. But that's a mindset like, thing, isn't it?
One shoe doesn't fit all. Like obviously James does intermittent fasting and has his meat, and you know that might not work for you, Peter. So you've got to do what works. They've got to trial what works for them and what they can maintain. If intermittent fasting works for them, they can maintain it. Great. You know, if someone weighing the food and whatever, then that works for them and they get it, well, great. You know, if counting your calories works for that person, well, it works for you, great. It's whatever works for that individual. But they've got to find out what they can stick to as well. We can give them the tools, but they've got to implement them and trial it, and then if it works, great, nice one. If it works for you, you can stick to it. That's just the way I do it, really.
Yeah, it's fine. It's definitely, it's fine. It's not so much now, I don't think, about the knowledge of, I was having a conversation with someone earlier today who came in. It's not, most people who I speak with are in their 50s, they're intelligent people. They know, you know, foods which are probably better for them and foods which are not so good for them. Then no one's stupid. It's just trying to find a strategy and a way of implementing things and habits that are going to work for you in your life, isn't it? You know, I mean, the days of sitting down to someone and, you know, the old Marjorie Dawes or whatever on Little Britain and sort of saying, you know, cake is bad and chocolate is bad and McDonald's is bad. And no one even in their slightly wrong mind thinks, what were you going to say?
Anyone? No, anyone?
You know, that whole kind of, you know, that just, you know, some foods are good, some foods are bad, and people don't understand what food is I think it's so outdated now, and it's more just finding ways that people can make slightly better choices and sustain and be consistent in their life, you know, and that's going to be different for everyone. Thanks so much, Jemma, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's been lovely speaking to you. What I'll do, I'll just quickly ask Pete and Pete, have you got any sort of final thoughts and stuff you'd like to say before we start to wrap up?
Not really. We've covered quite a lot of stuff. I think that traffic light thing is brilliant. I think it's just.
I'll let you use that one, Pete. You can have that one.
I can yeah, thanks. I can white label that, can I? But no, I think it's brilliant because it's like it's just such a simple way of looking at it. And this is all it is. It's just this is the whole point in this podcast, isn't it? It's just to try and take, like you just said, people throw smoke at all these things to complicate it, and it's as complicated as you want to make it, and that is yet another way of looking at it. It's so super simple. It's unbelievable. So yeah, and just hearing about you've had like setbacks from wanting to play football and then injury and then this and that and then working a job you didn't like and all of that, and then taking the risks to open up the gym and changing the way you train. I mean, it's just that's just a brilliant journey, because we were talking about, this is off last week's podcast, the one James hasn't listened to yet, but we were talking about that, and like myself and Paul, and when we first started out, I mean, I just wanted to lose weight. That was it. That's all I was bothered about, and that's obviously changed across the last 10 years, but 20 years, but that's it's just good to hear that like, you know, someone like yourself who's very knowledgeable, just become elite, Strongfirst elite and all that. You've put all that effort into that and everything. You've done all of this stuff beforehand. You still haven't got it all sorted out. You're still learning. You're still.
Yeah, I think every day is a school day. And I think as well, you know, there was some moments in the gym I had to pinch myself because I had the likes of, say, like Fabio stood there and like Megan and obviously James, you know, and I've followed them for years, and I'm like, they're actually like in my gym, you know. It was a bit surreal, but we're always learning. And I think, that's one thing I would, you should always reinvest. You speculate to accumulate. And I think we should always be, I think as we get older, we realise like knowledge is power. And that's something that I wished I'd done as my younger self, was just, learn more. If we're going back to just sat in detention, take note in class. But yeah. Live and learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent. Paul, do you have anything you'd like to say as we kind of wrap up?
I'm muted. I've got drilling in the background, so I'm muted. So no, it's always good to speak to another trainer who's just kind of dealing with real people, because you kind of know what's important, and you've got to stay true to that. I think you've got to be able to see through all the noise out there, and there's a reason people come to coaches like yourself. It's because they want you to cut through all the other stuff that's fogging their mind and clouding all their actions. And like you say, you're pinpointing the thing that they need to do and getting them to do it. And I think it's a very powerful place, and it's a very powerful service to offer someone.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jemma, if people are listening to this, and hopefully they are, some people, if anyone is listening to this, and
everyone will be listening to it.
Yeah. And would like to sort of follow you, find out more about what you do, or maybe they may be in the vicinity of Teeside and things, and want to find out about the unit gym. What's the best way for people to kind of follow you and get on board and just get a taste of what you do and what's coming up?
We've got Instagram, so the gym is called the Unit Teeside, so that's on Instagram. And then I've got my own fitness, which is JW Health and Fitness. That's just my fitness. And then we have got a website, which is more for inquiries. And I've just not long had my website.
I don't think I follow the JW Health and Fitness, so I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, that's just mainly my one-to-one clients and my own training. I set that up because my friends were sick of my my personal Instagram getting full of fitnessy stuff. So that one's just full of my dog anyway. So yeah,
it is. Yeah, you need to follow Frankie. Frankie's great.
Yeah, bless him.
JW Health and Fitness, or the Unit. Is it the Unit Gym Teeside?
The Unit Gym Teeside.
Excellent, fantastic, brilliant. Well, thanks so much
thanks for
coming
me
on. And
I hope you don't need Pete to explain my what was I going to say?
Accent?
My accent. Oh no.
No, we've had Paul McElroy on. We've had Finbar Toulan on.
Oh well.
Dave Keown on. It's usually the Irish ones that have got the. I shouldn't be. Yeah, I'll dig myself into a hole.
Yeah. Honestly, James, that's disgraceful. I mean, come on.
Sorry, okay, brilliant. Well, hopefully, I'm assisting at the October SFG1. I don't know if you'll be there, Jemma, at all.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. Yeah, and
brilliant.
I'll catch up then.
I'll see you then. Brilliant.
Cool.
Okay, thank you so much, and for everyone listening.
Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Jemma. And for everyone listening at home, thank you very much indeed. Please do like, share, subscribe. If you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please do also leave a review. And if you'd like to join the Facebook group, just go on to groups on Facebook, search Health Oddity, and we will let you in there. We've got some return guests coming up. I know that I was speaking to a few people over the weekend who said they really enjoyed the Chris Zaremba podcast that we did, the one that was fat to fit over 50. And I've reached out to Chris. We've got him coming back on in June to talk a little bit more about his actual kind of contest prep and things like that. And a bit more specifics around his training and diet, which will be really interesting, because I think he's certainly nearer 60 than he is 50 now. So he might be.
He's like 64 or something, isn't he? 65 now?
No, I don't think he's that old. Is he?
He was.
I don't know. I don't want to prematurely age him, but yeah, he might be. I'm not sure, but he's certainly, because he was competing in the over 50s class, and he may actually be over 60. Yeah, he may be over 60.
Yeah, I think he said he was. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So he's coming back up, and we've got some other returning guests and some new ones coming as well soon. So make sure you tune in each and every week. That's episode 92. We're closing in on the 100, which is going to be a big milestone for us. So until next week, take care and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.